outskirts of a small, sleepy village, nestled in the shadow of a dense forest. Her home, an old cottage passed down through her family, was cozy yet eerily quiet at night. Its isolation was something she had always... It all began 1 week ago, on a cold and moonless night. As the wind howled outside, Clara drifted off to sleep, lulled by the familiar creaks of the house. But her rest didn't last long. She awoke with a start, her chest tight and her breath shallow, as though something unseen was pressing against her. At first, she thought it was sleep paralysis, a condition she'd read about but never experienced. But then she heard it, a faint tap. Tap, tap. Her blood. Clara's fear paralyzed her until the tapping stopped as abruptly as it had begun. The silence that followed was somehow even worse. She didn't sleep for the rest of the night, and when dawn finally broke, she mustered the courage to check the window. There was nothing unusual, no scratches, no marks, no evidence of anything. She laughed nervously at her own paranoia and told herself it was just her imaginatio. But the next night, this time, the tapping began earlier, just as Clara was drifting off. Tap, tap, tap. It was more insistent, louder. She sat up in bed, heart pounding, and turned on the lamp. The dim light illuminated her room, casting long shadows on the walls. For several minutes, she sat in silence, clutching the covers. It was as though something on the other side was waiting for her to look. The thought made her shudder, summoning her courage. She got out of bed and walked toward the window, each step heavier than the last. She pulled back the curtain. Nothing. Just the darkness of the forest beyond, the moonlight filtering through the trees, she ex-Clara. By the third night, Clara's nerves were frayed. She spent the day asking her neighbors if they'd seen or heard anything unusual, but no one had. "You're probably just stressed," said Mrs. Thatcher, an elderly woman who lived down the road. "That house of yours is old. It's bound to make strange noises." "Don't let," Clara nodded, forcing a smile, but the unease lingered. That evening, she double-checked every lock in the house and drew the curtains tight. She even set up a small lamp by the window, hoping the light would deter whatever. But the tapping began again, louder than before. Tap, tap, tap. It echoed in her ears, relentless. She covered her head with a pillow, trying to block it out, but it seemed to grow louder, more insistent. And then, at first, it was faint, like the rustling of leaves. But as she lay there, holding her breath, the words became clearer, though distorted and unnatural, as if spoken through gritted teeth. Dawn she couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed the flashlight she'd hidden under her pillow, flicked it on, and shone it at the window. For a moment, the tapping stopped, and the whispering fell silent. She approached the window cautiously, heart pounding, and pulled her outside, illuminated by the beam of her flashlight, was a figure unlike anything she'd ever seen. It was tall, impossibly so, with limbs that seemed to stretch unnaturally long. Its skin was pale and taut, as if stretched over bones that jutted out at odd angles. Hollow eyes glowed faintly, locking onto hers, and its mouth curved into a Clara stumbled back, the flashlight slipping from her trembling hands. The room plunged into darkness, save for the dim glow of the creature's eyes. It raised one skeletal finger and tapped the tap. Tap. Clara's legs gave out, and she fell to the floor, shaking uncontrollably. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The creature pressed its face against the glass, its grin widening. Then, in a voice that seemed to come from inside her own head, "I waited, and you looked. Now, I'm coming in." The window shattered, shards of glass spraying across the room. Clara screamed and crawled backward, but the creature moved with unnatural speed, climbing inside. It crouched in the corner, its body twisted and contorted. The room filled with, "You shouldn't have looked," it hissed, its voice a rasping echo. Clara scrambled to her feet and bolted for the door, but it slammed shut before she could reach it. The creature moved closer, its limbs bending in impossible angles. She pressed herself against the "Please," she whimpered. "Leave me a—" The creature tilted its head as if amused. No morning came, and Clara woke to the sound of birds chirping. She was lying in her bed, the sunlight streaming through the unbroken window. Had it all been a dream? She laughed nervously, wiping her eyes. It had felt so real, but surely it couldn't have. As she swung her legs out of bed, her foot brushed against something sharp. She looked down and froze. A shard of glass lay on the floor, stained with a dark, sticky substance. Slowly, she turned to the window. Scratched into the glass, deep and jagged, were ivy.